Alright, welcome back to the VFR build.
Don't try this at home. I've never done brake lines. I've never made my own brake lines before. This is an experiment. Just wait and see if it works for me. So then take that as a grain of salt. It may or may not work for anybody else. I don't know. But in theory it should work, and I'm pretty confident of it, but I'm not always right, and I have no experience to base my confidence on in terms of making my own brake lines. It's an experiment, and I'm willing to see if it works or not. What's fun for me is trying something I've never done before and see what I can learn from it. And that's what we're doing here, really. If you were smarter, which the commenter was, you would just measure out your lines here and then go to a hydraulic hose shop and have them make brake lines for you. You wouldn't mess around with making them yourself, because yeah, this takes a lot of time, and I am wasting money on stuff here that I'm gonna end up with more hose than I need, and I'm gonna have to store that, and there's all kinds of things. I don't really come out ahead so much on this, but I'm having fun, and that's kind of the point. But the main point is, don't try this at home. This is just for entertainment. All right, so here's our caliper on the left side of the bike. We've already got our little banjo fitting on there. I got the connection for the other end of the hose in the mail yesterday. This guy, we got another one. All right, so I guess let's do this side first. This end first. So I'm not sure how well I explained it yesterday, but my components here, if you can see, our hose consists of, on the inside, it's a PTFE tube, that little white guy, and then around there you can see there is some stainless steel braiding. And then on the outside of that, on the very outside, we've got this sort of black coating. The stainless steel braiding is great for strength. It holds this tube in place and it doesn't allow it to flex as much. It won't expand under pressure the way that a straight rubber hose would, the stock straight rubber hose. And so this is an upgrade for that reason. A little bit better brake response. And then this coating on the outside, this is to protect like the bike. So when you're, instead of having a stainless steel braided line rubbing on your bike and just taking the paint right off, you've got this coating which allows it, if it comes into contact with your bike, it won't take the paint off, in theory. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. But this little coating is a pain, and I swear they never designed these little fittings to deal with this coating. So I'm going to take the coating off, and I have measured this since yesterday. I did one and measured it, and I have kind of an idea of how much coating I want to take off of it. It's about 4/10 of an inch, and I'm using this little box cutter to make a nice clean line around here, and then it does make it easier just to pull it off as well. Again, I'm not recommending anybody do this. I'm just sort of showing you what I do, what I'm doing, or what I'm up to, and you can watch me for entertainment purposes do what I'm doing and see how it works, because I do think I may be doing things that other people might choose not to do, and that's kind of the point. I'm doing things in experimental ways here just to see how they work out of curiosity. I'm a curious kind of fellow. I like to know how things work, why you do something or why you don't do something, and sometimes you can't just ask somebody, you got to try it yourself. There, so that comes off nice and neat, and then my other component comes apart. We've got this little sort of nipply end here that goes inside this end here, but it also has this little ferrule in there. This one happens to be aluminum, and this little ferrule, the point of this is that it goes around that PTFE tubing on the inside there, and just around that, and it sandwiches between the PTFE tubing and that stainless steel braiding on the outside. This one has a sort of recession on the inside there. You can see on the very end of that tube on the inside there is a stop, sort of a larger area where this PTFE tubing would stop. when it hits that. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is get it all the way down in there. And I've got to get this guy on here first though. And we've got some of that, you can see the tubing in there. I'm going to try and get the ferrule in there next and get it over that tubing. And this is kind of the difficult part of this whole thing, is trying to get it down onto that tubing all the way from this point. And what I found useful, I just got this little bolt here, this extra long bolt. I chose this bolt because it's a diameter that is big enough to contact this entire ferrule at the same time and sort of push it down evenly. Yeah. All right, I think we're pretty much there now. I can see that PTFE tubing near the top of that ferrule on the inside now, so I think pretty good there. And then our next step is to stick this guy with a little nipple on it down inside that PTFE tubing, and then it's got threading on there, and that should all just have to thread this together basically, and that's what our wrenches are for. All right, that's that. And this one's not horrible. I can see a little bit of stainless steel tubing or stainless steel braiding through there. You can see there's like a gap, and I think other people cover this up, and I'm going to try doing that on this one. And then I should be able to go back on the other ones, because I feel like I should be able to get that tubing over. If I put heat shrink on here, I think I should be able to get it over the top of the existing fittings and then shrink it down, because I'm going to be shrinking it down on top of the fitting basically. Let's see, let's hook this guy up and see what we got. All right, so this guy is going to live here. And for this stuff to run down through the forks and to the back side, I think that looks good. On the front side, that's how it will look basically. All right, so now we've got our hose coming through here, and you can kind of see up here on the top, it's going to want to rub a little bit on this fork. I'm probably going to do the same thing I did yesterday and put a zip tie on here and hold this down. And this kind of brings up a decent thought on this, which is that I have two options basically. Attach them with the zip ties up here, and then when the bike does travel through its suspension, it will flex in this section here. If I attach them later on onto the fender that we don't currently have, but onto the fender, they'll be attached here and to the fender, and that travels as one unit. The fender travels with the wheel, right? So then they would be flexing up in here instead. It would be a rigid attachment essentially right here. This wouldn't really move between here and the fender, right? It would only move up in here, and I kind of don't like that idea. I'd like to have, I think this is a better move to have the flexing happen down here in the longer section of tubing. That's just my thought. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching and telling me when I'm messing stuff up. Or, I mean, even just telling me you have a different opinion is nice to hear, and that's also how I learn stuff, is by looking at what other people are doing or hearing about what other people are doing. Sometimes that's the best information, you know. Well, it oftentimes is. Someone who's done it before is the best source oftentimes, because they can tell me pros and cons, what worked and what did not work for them, you know. So yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys commenting and letting me know your angle on things. It helps us get to the finish line sometimes faster, you know. Like you guys commented on this brake line setup, and as a result, I've got what I think is a better brake line setup. So I appreciate that. All right, I'll take my little banjo fitting off the caliper here. Yeah, this one fits on, so it fits on the stainless part so cleanly. Same deal with this one. I've got the little ferrule down in there over the top of that PTFE tubing, and now we should be able to stick this guy down inside that PTFE tubing and then start threading it on. And this one I can only get started so much. And then just stick it on the bike. I can get some leverage on that thing. All right, we've got some heat shrink, and this is fun because this is stuff I never use, stuff this size. It's always smaller stuff. This is just one of these kits, you know, it comes in this little sampler size kit. All right, so this one, I should be able to fit over all of this stuff. So this, I'm just gonna like cut this in half. All right, so now we got a heat shrink on there. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this part over the end here, kind of like so. Shrink that down, and that should make it look a lot cleaner. There it is. That's the secret. I'm much happier with that. That looks great. All right, so we've got our banjo connection fit up to our caliper now. We've got our crush washers in there. We've got this nice little clean looking application on our joint here. This looks much better. I am way happier with this. On the other side, we've got this type of fitting, a different type of fitting. Yesterday I was like, oh, I guess I should probably put Teflon tape on there, but I'm reading about stuff, and apparently you don't do that. Teflon tape is not used on these and fittings. You do, however, put a little bit of oil, just a little drop of oil in there, and then you tighten them just past finger tight. So you don't tighten them very much, especially on, this is an aluminum one, so especially on those you don't. Let's try and get that side done. So yeah, over on this side, we've got all three of these connections here. I'm gonna take them off. And apparently, yeah, you just put a little drop of oil on there. And then stick them on there finger tight. I'm gonna do all of these things first. And then we just want to go a little bit past finger tight, apparently. Not much. All right, so in theory, that is done.